So guys, we are back at it today, and as you can see, my parts have finally come in. They are the parts I've been waiting for, which was the rear engine mount specifically. And then these are just some little bolt-ons that we'll be doing real quick and easy today. Is the bypass gasket. Just simply take 2 bolts off and pop it in between and put it back in. That'll stop some boost leaks on the bypass valve. And a shifter weight to help me shift a little bit better. We'll be doing a short shifter at a later stage along with the shifter bushing, so that'll assist a little bit better there. The rear engine mount is for the strengthening of the chassis in terms of how it is mounted to the engine. There is a lot of wheel hop, and one of these wheels will spin a little bit more than the other one, so that's going to eliminate that, as well as not be prone to braking like the stock one is. And then also another hop up that you can get for your car is this Corksport lower tie rod bar, which is going to go between the 2 control arms, also to reduce wheel hop, and is also going to protect the bottom of the engine bay in terms of lower height. As you can see, it's going to go a little bit lower between the 2 control arms, and it's said to protect the engine, but I'm not putting it on for protection. I'm putting it on for the wheel hop that I've seen in my last car. This one doesn't have it so much. It is a lower miles car, so we're not seeing it as much on the car, so I'm not quite concerned with it, but still hop ups that we want to do. And as you know from the other day, the ground is very soft here. As you can see, there's quite a lot of water in it, so we'll be doing an oil change today. But as you can see, I made some ramps to get the car up. First and foremost, those are the Pittsburgh 13,000 pound ramps from Harbor Freight, excuse me, sorry for misspeaking over there and taking so long. And what I've done is I've actually just put them on 3 pieces of wood, simply to help to boost the height that it's going to get for the car, as well as distribute the weight over those 3 pieces of wood, now 6 pieces of wood, 3 on each side of the car. And then I've also gone ahead and used this little lip over here, so I ride up this and I ride up this first, so that the car is not hitting the bumper when it comes up the ramp, because even this, which are the lowest angle ramps and the longest angle ramps that I could find, hit the car when you come up. So with that being said, that is what I've made today. So let's get started. We're going to go ahead and get started probably with the oil change, just because that is the easiest. So of course here today we're going to be going with exactly what it shows in the engine bay, the 5W30. I'm going with the Mobil 1 extended performance. It's fully synthetic. And then I'm going to be going with the K&N air filter, and the one that you want to get is going to be the HP 1002. We like this one because it's high flow, it's very well rated, it has a large capacity, and it has a long life. There are other choices as well. I've heard that you should not go Fram. That's for you to read up upon. I have nothing bad to say about them, but this is a really good one for several reasons that I've just mentioned. And also, as you can see, it's got a little nut top, so it makes it really easy to get on and off, and it's welded as well, so it won't break. So what we'll do today, we're going to go ahead and get in under the car over here. Let's get started, and I'll show you exactly where we're going to remove the parts from today. Okay, so here we are under the engine, guys. You're going to keep rolling back until you see your downpipe, which for the first time I can now confirm that mine is all stock, just having seen it for the first time. And we're going to come and find this 17mm bolt right over here. We're going to undo it. This is your oil drain bolt, and you can see they're using a crush washer. Sometimes you can reuse that washer, sometimes you want to put a new one on. That's completely up to you. I'm probably going to put a new one on today myself. Behind me over here, and as I roll a little bit back, let me go back, you can see the stock engine brace over here. It's going to be attached to this bolt over here, and 1, 2, 3 bolts over here. My apologies for being so close and not getting such a good angle on that. Let me get a little bit back. 1, 2, 3 bolts over there, and that little black bit over there to the lateral bolt over here is what we remove. We're going to install that other engine mount. As you can see, the stock one is just steel. It's not very solid, it's pretty flimsy. It's going to bend, it's going to break most likely. And then the other thing that we're doing is, if you see that bolt that's sitting right over there to the other bolt that's coming to the front of the control arm over here, that is going to be holding our tie rod brace that I showed you. And then if you slide out just a little bit, you'll see that there is a hole over here. This is where your air filter sits. Sorry, not your air filter, your oil filter. So I'm going to put a couple of towels down over here, because this, when it comes off, is going to drip oil everywhere all over here. But you do have a recess to get in, so you don't need to remove this chin strap or anything. So I'm going to start undoing this in just a second and get the oil out. Let's begin with the oil. There's a 17mm nut back there. We'll get done on these bolts over here later. We're first going to do the oil. Then I'm going to do the engine mount, and then I'm going to do the tie rod brace. So let's go ahead and do that. Under the car, I've loosened the 17mm nut and the oil filter, and now what I like to do is I like to let the car run for just a little bit, Car's been sitting overnight, so it's cold, so a lot of the oil can gunk up, especially if you haven't had an oil change in a long time. I don't know what the previous owner had done, so I'm going to go ahead and just let the car run for about 5 minutes and go and get a drink or something, maybe a cup of coffee. And yeah, when I come back, everything will be warm, so be careful. You don't want to spill the oil on you. It's going to be hot, but it's going to allow you to get the oil out better. Another thing that's going to allow you to get the oil out better is make sure that when you go ahead and pull the plug at the bottom and it's draining, that you just want to open this up as well. You want to crack it, possibly even remove it. And of course, if you need a reminder of your oil grade, there it is, so don't forget. So first I'm going to leave this because I want the oil to flow normally. I just don't want it to explode out. I'm going to go ahead and start the car, warm it up, and once I've taken the 17mm nut out, I'm going to go ahead and open that out, let everything drain out. Once everything's drained out, I'm going to go ahead and put a towel under it, do my oil filter, put the new one on, and then the oil is changed and we are ready to go onto the rear engine mount. Note for the rear engine mount for the next step, as well as for removing of your 17mm nut on your sump, which is going to be your oil drain plug, sometimes you may need to use a longer than normal wrench. And as you can see, I'm trying to cheat over here, but my vice grips weren't big enough. Ended up using the hand to get the oil filter off, and it was sufficient, but the crush washer used on the 17mm nut meant that there's no oil leak, of course, but it's very tight on the sump, and I had to use a torque wrench just to get it off. Do not over torque your bolt when you put it back on. Super important, guys. Do not over torque your bolt. It will stretch the threads. You will have oil leaks and you have to change your sump, which is quite a large job to do. Don't do that. So just hand tighten everything. You can constantly get under there and hand tighten. You'll be doing oil often if you're going to be doing modifications like this. You'll be doing it anything between every 2,500 to 5,000, maybe even 7,500 miles if you really want to stretch it. Some people say they're doing up to 10 or 20,000 miles. I just don't want to do that with denatured oil that's been too hot too many times. So for the cost of 30 bucks, the oil's cheap, and riding up on the ramps, which is super quick. I'm going to go and change mine probably every 3,000 to 5,000 miles. All right, guys, let's get the oil done, and then we're going to go onto the rear engine mount, for which we'll also need a torque wrench. So be ready with the torque wrench. It's going to be set to 70 foot-pounds for when we tighten up again, but we'll get to that later. Let's first get the old engine mount out. I'm going to change the oil now. You've seen where the nut and the oil filter is, so nothing left to see. I'm going to go ahead and take that top drain plug off as well and let everything drain out, and I'll be right back. As far as idling, I'm not sure what year they did this in, but mine was a 10 before, and it didn't have this before, but it has a little cold engine sign on the dash. So if yours has that, I'm going to keep running until my cold engine sign goes off. That means that my oil is hot enough and viscous enough to drain out. Then I'm going to take the 17mm plug out. I'm going to start working on the engine mounts and loosening that up. I'm going to come around to the top of my engine as soon as all of that is a little bit loose. I'm going to go ahead and install the bypass valve over here. So the bypass valve filter, just going to go in between these two. Remove bolt, pull out, install, insert bolt, you are done. Now, next, we're going to be looking at the Cobb shifter weight. That's going to replace this nasty fucking huge thing in the front over there. So we're going to unscrew those. That's going to drop out with that nasty weight, and we're going to insert this new hardware using these spring washers over here to make sure that these bolts don't come loose, and install the new shifter weight. And it's supposed to improve the shifting of the engine. So never had that before. Also never installed the shifter bushings and the short shift before. That I do have those parts, never got to install them on my last car, so I'll be doing that in another video. But yeah, let's get started. I see the cold engine light has gone off, so let's turn off. Alright, I'll just leave the key in here. Alright, and now let's go and do the oil. The engine should be warm enough now. Going to go ahead and do the 17mm nut at the bottom first. Once I've done that and I've got my oil catch can there already, I'm going to go ahead, or should I say not oil catch can, because that's another car part, just an oil drain can essentially. And I'm going to let that drain out, open the top one up, come back and do my oil filter in just a minute. But while that's draining, I'm going to start loosening up the bolts for the engine mount, which I just showed you, which is going to be the one that goes up like that, and the 3 or 4 that go across, just loosening them so that I'm ready to go and finish doing the oil and come back and do the engine mount. Guys, so all the oil's drained out now. It's been a couple of minutes. Engine's been sitting hot. Keep in mind, you're going to make a mess of yourself. I always tell myself I'm going to be fast enough. I'm not going to drip oil on myself. I'm going to be clean this time. Just wear gloves. Just wear gloves. Don't be an idiot like I was and get fucking oil all over your hands again, twice. Because you're going to get it on your hand when you try not to shoot the sump bolts off into the dirt somewhere. and then when you grab the oil filter, of course, it's all going to come down on you. Now we are ready to install the new oil filter. So I've taken my finger around the rim of this new oil filter, dab a little bit of oil. We're going to go ahead and insert the new oil filter, and go ahead and put our crush washer and bolt back in, hand tighten. We're going to go start filling up the oil. The bolts below for the engine mount are now loose. I have loosened all of them, but just loosen them. That's it, that's all. I'll be back to go and work on those in just a second. I'll be removing those, and then I'll also be getting my jack, and I'll be using this stand over here just in case I need to prop the engine up at all. I noticed that, of course, when you remove the rear engine mount, the engine's going to fall down just a little bit, and then it's a little bit harder to line up your new engine mount and get it all in. I might need it, I might not need it. I'll let you know how it goes with the stands this time. Last time I was on jack stands, so I'll let you know how that goes. Let's go and do the oil filter, put the nut back in, fill the oil up, and let's go and work on the engine mount. Yeah, over here and over here, and then loosen this one so this can slide down. We're going to reuse this. This is part of the stock hardware, and this is what we're replacing. Very ugly, very skinny, very torquey little thing, and this is what we're replacing it with. And there it is. Much beefier. It's got this nice big fat polyurethane mount in the middle. So this is going to be with the bolt on the driver's side. We're going to go sandwich this in. It's going to be pretty tight, guys, so you're going to have to wiggle it around. Once you've lined it up, you want to torque this bolt up first. Well, not torque it up, but just tighten it up loosely, and then you're going to come back and reinsert these, and you're going to battle a little bit with this one. It's the jack one that I'm talking about, to realign it with this one. So I'll let you know if you need a jack or not when you're on stands, and let's get it done. Alright, so this last little bolt is quite a hard one to get on. You've got to push the engine away from you that way, and then you've just got to thread that bolt. And I was lucky enough, mine didn't move that much. Now we're going to go ahead and 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, because we loosened it, all get tightened up to 70 foot-pounds, and then we are installed. Now you want to come back about 3 or 4 days, maybe 5 days if you're driving the car every day, and just double check when you come back after 5 days that everything is still holding its torque spec, 70 foot-pounds. So let's go and tighten it up, and we should be done with the engine mount now, and we're going to go on to the tie rod bar. So we continue, guys. Next up, this bolt over here, and same one on the other side. Control arm bolts, both 19mm. You're already in under the car with a 19mm. So let's go ahead and loosen them up. I will show you a bracket. It determines whether or not you need the little inserts that they sell you with the Corksport tie rod bar. So if your bracket looks like the picture shown, you need it. If you don't have that, then you don't need it. So yeah, I'll show you that picture now. Alright, so this was getting in the way. It's your little chin straps. I just undid a little bolt over there, one bolt over there. I'll be able to just flop this forward and out of the way. There you go, and I can get to that nut a little bit better. Look, you only have to undo these just enough to slide the brace in. So don't undo them all the way, you're going to have a problem, because your low control arm's going to come out. So don't do that, just loosen them enough to slide it in. That's all we're going to do. Alright, so now that you've seen the picture and you know whether or not you need those brackets, I'm going to go ahead and install this. It goes in just like this into the car. So this bracket actually faces to the back, and this is going to be to the front side of the car over here. That's the back of the car. Just literally slides over those bolts, and you tighten it up to, I think it says 93 to 110 pounds. So I'm set to 103 exactly. So yeah, that's where I'm at. I'm going to go and put it in. As you can see, I did the shifter weight. Note that it's got some red Loctite in it, so you're going to have to use your torque wrench to get this off as well. It sits down there. It's got the new hardware and the new spring washer and crush washer on. And then I put the gasket on as well for the bypass filter, just to avoid any boost leaks. Just gives you a slightly better seal over here. One bolt out, back in, put the gasket in between, and you're ready to go. So let's get this in. I'm going to get this tightened up, and we are done for today. Thank you for watching. Please press like, subscribe, and see you next time. Goodbye. Alright, so we have now installed the Corksport brace. As you can see, it goes in like so, around that. And like I said, I tightened mine up to 103 pounds of torque, which is exactly in between what they say. Here is the engine brace installed. And as you can see on this over here, the washer and the crush washer stay on the side, okay? They don't go on the other side or in between. Yeah, that's it. And that's all, guys. Thanks again for watching. See you next time.